Welcome to Your Mac Life for Wednesday, August the 28th, the last Wednesday in August, and the summer's almost over, and it's only starting to get warm. That's weird. I'm your host, Shawn King, joined me as always by my beautiful wife,
Melissa King.
Oh, jeez, I hate your camera. How you doing?
Good.
She's hot, and she gets grumpy when she's hot. She's a little grumpy.
Fine. It's the heat. I'm managing.
You're crazy from the heat. Come on, admit it.
No, I'm not.
On tonight's show, we'll talk to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com about Apple's Siri apology and why they apologize and if they did a good enough job. We'll also talk about the ridiculous story that Apple is warning you not to put your brand new, beautiful, titanium, stop-a-bullet Apple Card in your leather wallet. Which...
That is ridiculous.
Did you just yawn?
Yes, I'm tired.
And we have a segment with Melissa called I Have a Question. Tonight's question is...
Oh, it's about Siri. I just have some little questions about it.
In general or specific as to what the privacy
No, the privacy stuff I think is
good.
more.
Good. It's an interesting... I don't think we think enough about what Siri does, how hard what Siri does is, but also what it can and can't do. Melissa and I, we just finished watching second season of The Crown. Great acting TV show. It's okay, historical. They make a lot of things up because they obviously have to. But we were curious, both of us being colonials, being citizens of the British Empire, of Her Majesty the Queen. We were curious as to the birth dates of some of Queen Elizabeth's children. They have Prince Charles, they have Princess Anne, Prince Andrew, and then Prince Edward. And the show jumps back and forth in the timeline. It was kind of confusing at times. And so we asked Siri one question, and she told us the answer. We asked her a second question related to the royal children. She answered. We asked her a third question. She said, here are some things I found on the web. What the hell?
Yeah, she was saturated. She didn't want to do it. She said, look it up yourselves. I'm not even a colonial. Well, sometimes I am, I guess, but look at it yourselves.
Why are you bothering with this crap? Just look it up yourself, exactly.
You just watch The Crown.
And the thing that always gets me is I use this as an example. When you ask for the elevation in meters, she gives it to you in feet. Mm-hmm. When you ask temperature, here in Canada, she gives it to you in Celsius. Mm-hmm. But when you specifically ask for elevation, she always gives it in feet. And it really pisses me off. So, but what Siri does is very difficult. And it's not as good as what Google does. And most of the time a little better than Amazon Alexa. So, do you use Siri on a regular basis? Is Siri a voice assistant for you? Or is it just the little lady who lives in your phone?
No, I use her more and more. And the more I model it, the more I see that the boys are using it. Just for you very basic things. Nothing.
Yeah, we don't use it for anything serious.
I see my wonderful educational technology lady at work. She's even in the office. She's so used to using Siri for everything. Sandy's going, hey Siri, remind me blah blah. Hey Siri, like she's always constantly using her. I see, and I use Siri in the car now more.
Yes, for texting and things like that.
I
right?
do, yes. Yeah, I use Siri to text Damon now because his room is in at the back of the property here. I find that I really appreciate that about her.
You don't use Siri for making appointments, though, for reminding yourself of...
More I do, yes.
You do? Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I find I use her for just very basic things.
Shopping list,
because it's hooked into our Indie List app.
Mm-hmm.
Reminders remind me to call so-and-so tomorrow at 9.
Mm-hmm.
Or remind me of my dentist appointment next week at 2, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, cooking. She's a good timer.
Yeah. Sometimes, well, we figured out your problem with the timer, which is a simple on and off.
Yeah, so...
We don't, because she doesn't hook into Spotify, we don't use Siri to play music. If we had Apple Music, you could say, hey, Siri, play me this artist or this playlist. Apple and Spotify are still in a bit of a pissing match when it comes to that, and they're not friendly with each other. They might be working on it in the next version of the OS, but right now you can't. One of the downsides of the iOS walled garden is the idea that Apple says when you do this, this app will open. as opposed to when you do this, which app would you like open? So, for example, when you click on a browser, when you click on a URL in an email or a text message or that kind of stuff, Safari is your browser. Even if you don't want to use Safari, Safari opens up automatically. So for Siri, when you want to play music, she will only route you through Apple Music. If you want to use Spotify, you have to open Spotify. You can't control Spotify through Apple Music. So it's a bit of a pain. I believe that Apple should allow the user to set up whatever default apps they want. So for the camera app, when I click on the camera app button, maybe I want Moments app to open, not the camera app. Or when I swipe across on my lock screen, rather than the camera app opening, let me choose what app opens there. Because if Apple has confidence in the product, first of all, 99% of customers will never change those things. They don't know how. The camera app, the Safari browser is good enough for them. But for those who do want to make changes, Apple should let them. Apple should have enough confidence in their default apps to say, hey, you can go ahead and try these other ones. We don't mind. Or recognize that their default apps may not be the best product for every single user. Maybe they are all granted. Maybe they're the best product for the vast majority of users. Maybe the vast majority of users don't mind using Safari as their browser. Maybe some want to use Chrome and other potential browsers. And Apple should have enough confidence in their own things to let people do that. Got a note for you folks who are subscribers to Your Mac Life. And by the way, thank you for subscribing to Your Mac Life. The Your Mac Life PayPal account has been the Shawn at YourMacLifeShow.com PayPal account's been shut down. PayPal changed their policy a couple of months ago, and because I now live in Canada, I can't use the U.S.-based Shawn at YourMacLifeShow.com PayPal account. So I've had to set up a new one with my Canadian banking, Canadian address, Canadian credit card, that kind of stuff. So it took forever to get through to a human being at PayPal to say, because all I could see was you need to provide your social security number to PayPal. I'm like, Canadian, don't got one of those, and or an ITIN number. Again, Canadian, don't got one of those. So it was a giant pain. I couldn't get any money for the last couple of months, and I couldn't get through to anyone at PayPal to say, hey guys, I'm Canadian, help me out here. So luckily, a very nice young man today in PayPal worked very hard to help me out and got it straightened out to a certain degree. The downside is, like I said, any PayPal subscribers whose money is going to the YourMacLifeShow.com account, that's going to bounce next week. I'm going to send everyone an email tomorrow, all the subscribers in the past month, and say, hey, if you wouldn't mind, please go through the effort of switching from the Shawn at YourMacLifeShow.com account to the new PayPal account that I've got set up.
Is it effortful for them?
Well, the problem with this stuff, and to be perfectly honest, it gives people an opportunity to cancel their subscriptions because they're going to have to cancel one subscription and then resubscribe to the other. My fear is people will cancel and just go, and keep it
So
canceled.
MacMan's wondering where his donations have been going.
Oh, no. They've been going to PayPal. Don't worry. I've got
Because
your...
he said his brother had to fight to get
Yes.
quite a bit of money back from them.
No worry. I've got the subscription. All the subscription money was being put into the PayPal account. It was there. I just couldn't access it without giving PayPal a social security or an ITIN number. It wasn't bouncing back. They weren't keeping anything else like that. It was there, and once I got through to someone at PayPal and said, this is the issue, they said, oh, no problem. And they've already forwarded the money from my American PayPal account to my Canadian PayPal account, so that's not a problem. The issue is going to be the next cycle for each subscriber when their automatic subscription goes through, when it automatically takes the $2, $5, $10 out of your bank account, out of your PayPal account, out of your credit card. That's going to bounce because that American account's been shut down. So like I said, I'm going to send everyone emails saying, hey, would you mind switching them over? We'll see how many people do that and don't subscribe. How many people cancel, how many people resubscribe. Hopefully it's a one-to-one thing, but it might not be.
No, it might not be.
So MacMan says, so you'll get it eventually? Yeah, we already got it. It's already it's already been put in the Canadian account, and actually Melissa's already taken it. Gone. She took it.
Actually, the credit card took it, not me.
Credit card company.
I have nothing to do with it.
So it's not that big a deal. Just like I said, it's just more of a pain than anything else. We were talking last week about quokkas. Quokkas. Did you know there is a Quokka Instagram account?
Well, that wouldn't surprise me.
Wouldn't surprise me either.
Well, they take great selfies with people. People like to do their selfie with their quokka.
Here they are. Here are the quokka selfies. It's Quokka on Instagram. And oh my God, could these things be any freaking cuter? I mean, they're just painful. They're apparently about the size of a large cat. Mm-hmm. They're not in Eastern Australia, though. We'll see them if we go to the zoo. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I've never seen one.
Yeah, they're native to Western Australia, but their little faces are just so painfully cute. And I didn't know this; they are a marsupial. They carry their babies in a little pouch in their tummies, just like wombats, just like wallabies, just like kangaroos. Mm-hmm. I did not know that. Which was, but yeah, I definitely want to meet a quokka.
They probably get rapidly killed by cats.
Yes, they are on the endangered list.
Oh, everything in Australia gets killed by cats.
By cats, yeah, that's right. It's a shame.
That's why it's illegal to keep your cat outside at night. But
I did not know that. Yeah,
it's illegal. But I mean, what are they going to do? Go around and go, "Where's your cat?" And, right. People have to abide by that.
Where's your cat? Where'd you put your cat this evening? Also, this was kind of cool. Derek Stembridge. You guys don't know him, but I know Derek from many moons ago, back in the day, working at Griffin Technology. He was the marketing guy at Griffin. He's since moved on, and he's working for Echo Comms. And so I get an email from Derek saying, "Hey, Shawn, you want to test out the Solo New York travel backpack?" And sure, what the hell? I'm happy to test out any kind of backpacks. So I get this actually very nice looking backpack. Solo-ny.com is the website. We're going to get more information on them in a little bit. But the thing that impressed me was this came in with the backpack, handwritten, and there was this card, and on the back, a handwritten note. I was quite impressed by that.
I thought it was lovely.
The Solo team, dear Shawn, excited to be sending you a bag. Can't wait to hear what you think. Hope you enjoy it. And it's handwritten. It's like, you can't see it, can you? There we go. Yeah, it's handwritten. I was very impressed by it. It's little things like that that make me predisposed to liking the company. Mm-hmm. Now, that doesn't mean I'm guaranteed to get a good review. But although from initial just opening up and zipping it, it's got enough zippers that I can lose everything I freaking own.
I think so.
It's got a stupid amount of zippers. And the problem with those kind of backpacks is always exactly that. Where did you put that thing? You have to be very, very organized to say that only put this here, only put these papers here, only do this kind of stuff.
I get very frustrated by things like that because it's like, where did I put? I need a guide. Okay, you put this in there and this in there.
Yeah, the pouches should say only put iPad here, only put phone here, kind of thing. But it's a very nice looking backpack, very stylish. A couple of handles. My only downside, real quickly, is that the straps. We don't know yet for a fact, but the straps don't seem to be very well padded. And we'll find out when I test it out. We'll go grocery shopping and we're gonna put a bunch of stuff in it and see how well padded they are. But initially, Solo, Solo, solo-ny.com if you want to check out some of the things they're doing. Later on in the show, we're going to have I have a question about Siri and privacy from Melissa. But up next, we're going to talk to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com about Siri and Apple Wallet and a whole bunch of other stuff. All that and much more coming up. This is Your Mac Life. Welcome back, folks. Thank you guys very much for joining me here this Wednesday evening. Appreciate you guys being tuned in, whether you're listening in to the show live or via the archive. Now we've got our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. Jim, how you doing?
Well, you interrupted me. I was watching porn.
Jesus, dude.
No. Food porn.
Food porn. What does that mean?
Well, I'm teaching myself how to cook, so I'm watching all these videos on how to cook things.
Like what kind of videos?
YouTube videos from cooks. You know, like Bobby Flay and...
Oh, God. See, I can't stand any of those guys.
No, but I like Bobby Flay.
Was your mom a good cook?
My mom was an awesome cook.
Nova Scotia moms are good cooks. My mom was an amazing cook, an amazing baker, too. Do you ever make stuff that your mom made? Just like...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like what?
Beef stew.
Yeah.
My mom came down 2 years ago with my grandmother.
Oh, cool.
And like the first 2 days that they were here, they said, "Oh, let's make some beef stew." And I was having a beer and just kind of watching them. And they were saying, "Oh, do you want some of this in there?" "Sure, yeah. Why not?" How much? "Oh, just a little bit. Yeah. Some, just throw some in. It'll be fine." It was the most amazing tasting beef stew I have ever had in my life.
Yeah, I know. My mom's the same way.
And then before they left, I said, "Okay, you guys have to make another beef stew, but this time I'm taking notes."
Yeah.
And it took me a while to get it down, but I got it down. And the last time my parents were here, I cooked it for them, and they said, "Yeah, that was good."
I haven't made anything as good as my mom made. Great clam chowder and corn chowder, beef stew, meatloaf. My meatloaf, I cannot get my meatloaf as good as my mom's. It's driving me nuts that I can't get it to stick together as good as hers. But the cooking aspect is fun, but are the videos that you're watching, are they good enough that you can follow along, or are you pause them, or are you just looking for techniques?
Just looking for techniques, really. Like now I make Southern fried chicken.
Nice.
Yep. Yeah. And I work through all of the different ideas and ways to do it until I came up with a process that worked for me and worked so that I had a good crust on the chicken. And, there's all kinds of things that I can cook now that, just from basically, well, I teach myself, yes, but my neighbor is also a chef.
Yeah, that helps.
So, like last Saturday, I made bordelaise sauce.
Wow.
And cooked or grilled 2 New York strip loin steaks, one medium and one medium and one well done.
Yeah.
And even the well done one was juicy and it was really good. Mashed potatoes. My girlfriend made mashed potatoes, and then we baked some carrots and had some other veggies on the side. It was a brilliant meal. Now, it took us 3 hours to make it all. because I'm not the fastest cook in the world, so I have my process and I need to get through it. So yeah, it took us 3 hours to get through everything, and it didn't help that I was drunk at the end by the time it was all done. But
It's funny is how, especially among men, a lot of us have avoided cooking till, I guess, middle age or later in life. But it's actually pretty easy. It doesn't have to be difficult. I've got hundreds of recipes in my AnyList app that are 30 minutes or less recipes, or a lot of one-pot recipes. Throw everything into one pot, throw a bunch of spices in there. It's actually easy, and it's so rewarding. It's so much fun to put a good meal down the table for friends and loved ones that I love doing it now.
And it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. I know that, when I was married, my ex-wife was an incredible cook, but she would cook. I mean, we didn't have a lot of money to make stuff, and she would come up with these amazing dishes that, it just became part of the repertoire at home of, having these great dishes. And that's, now my girlfriend makes an incredible meatloaf and noodles with pancetta. I forget what it's called. Carbonara.
Yes.
She makes an incredible, I want to crawl in the pot and just lather that all over my body.
Yeah.
It is so good,
and carbonara is not easy to make because there's egg in there, and you have to cook the egg in with the pasta. There's a very fine line there that if you mess it up, you've just basically got scrambled eggs.
Well, I would have scrambled eggs.
Yeah, me too. That's why I've never tried pasta carbonara.
Yeah, but she makes it incredible. So I have things that I try and make. So yeah, I was watching about cooking chicken fried steak today.
That was Your Cooking Life with Jim and Shawn. Moving on now. Apple released a statement improving Siri's privacy protections. This is something that's been ongoing for at least 3 or 4 weeks since the Guardian newspaper told us that Apple was doing this. Apple has released a statement now. What do you think of the statement? I was a little upset that the apology took 10 paragraphs before they came around and said, we're sorry for doing this. But you have a different take on it.
I don't think Apple needs to apologize at all.
I disagree.
Well, you're wrong. and it's a good thing that of all the people that you have on the show, I'm here to tell you you're wrong.
Because no one else will. That's right.
No one else will. They didn't need to apologize. They did nothing wrong. Now, I think in their mind, with the way that they feel, how they feel about privacy, they feel that, maybe they do owe people an apology. I don't think they do, because they never hid this.
Well, they didn't hide it per se, but they also weren't as explicit and transparent as they should have been. This kerfuffle as the case in point. Apple seemed to think that the users wouldn't care or didn't need to know explicitly that there were human beings listening in on their conversations. The problem is so many of us think that AI, artificial intelligence and machine learning, is done wholly automated by machines. It's not. The vast majority of AI and machine learning is at least assisted by human beings, and we have to realize that.
Let's back up here for a sec.
All
Apple was never listening to our conversations.
No, sorry.
They would listen to a few second snippet of what invoked Siri. So was it your TV that invoked Siri, which happens to me? I'll be sitting there watching the show, and all of a sudden Siri will say, I can't do that on here. Or Siri will come on and say, sure, I'll play Gangster's Paradise. Right. And,
that's right.
I'm sitting there looking at Siri. So what the hell are you doing?
That's right.
So, just to be clear on that, they weren't going back and listening to entire conversations about. So, okay.
Yeah, they were just listening in on snippets. And again, something that Apple made more clear in this news release is that they were listening to unidentifiable to me snippets. In other words, they could not trace that back and say, hey, Shawn King in Gibson, British Columbia said this.
Right.
According to Apple, they could not track that stuff back. They're unique identifiers and blah, 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 blah. And I believe Apple when they say that.
Yes. Well, we've known forever that there are unique identifiers, random numbers and letters
Yep.
that are, put or associated with that device. And that's it. There's no Apple ID. There's no phone number. There's no way for them to know who that is.
I think it's interesting that Apple says in their PR, first, by default, we will no longer retain audio recordings of Siri interactions. We will continue to use computer-generated transcripts to help Siri improve. What's the difference?
Well, I think part of the difference, and I wish that they would just keep the audio clips, to be honest, because if Siri got something wrong, chances are the transcript is going to be wrong too.
Yes,
but a computer-generated transcript does nothing to help them.
That's right.
And I think, that's, I'm sure that they're well aware of that. I mean,
yeah, I would have no problem. I would have no problem if Apple said, if you opt in, you can also opt in to allowing us to retain audio recordings for X period of time. I wouldn't have a problem with that. If I'm going to opt in, I'll opt in all the way. I don't want to opt in just halfway.
Yeah, I agree. I just take, if Siri makes a mistake and you want to listen to the recording on how that mistake was made, please do.
Yeah, exactly.
I doubt that anybody is out there saying, "Hey Siri, how do you make a pipe bomb?"
That's right.
I don't think that's it. And then Siri misinterprets it as something else. Yep. I think that part of the problem, and this is where your idea really hits home for me, because if I say, like I did last year, "Hey Siri," I'm sorry, I keep saying that for people's phones. I apologize. If I say, "Siri, when is the next Boston Bruins game?" and it said, "Oh, the Bruins last played, last 2 months ago."
Yep.
Well, no. They actually play in 5 minutes, and it's the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
This is important to
So
7%
of the population needs this crucial information.
Yeah. So for me, that if I could say at that point, because what are the chances Apple's going to flag that?
Exactly. That's right. Yeah.
Well, probably not.
Yep.
But if I could say this to, this was a mistake, and off it goes to them, then they can actually look at it and do something. Yep. I mean, it's a great idea.
Yeah,
I think.
I don't know why Apple hasn't paid me millions of dollars for it already. I should be living the lap of luxury right now.
Well, you are. You're in Gibson, British Columbia.
I am that. Apple also says that those who choose to participate will be able to opt out at any time. If you opt in, you can opt out whenever you want. And only Apple employees will be allowed to listen to audio samples of the Siri interactions. That's another thing that makes me go, yeah, so? What's it saying is that Apple doesn't trust their own third-party contractors. And obviously...
No.
Yeah, I think it's exactly what it says.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. What it's doing is addressing something in that article that came out, that it was third-party contractors that were listening to it. Yep. And people get all up in arms because they weren't Apple employees. But in that vein, I agree with you. What difference does it make?
Yeah.
Apple had a system for grading of, listening to the audio and trying to help Siri understand better. And now it's going to be an Apple employee doing it instead of a contractor. What difference does it make? They both signed the same NDA.
Yep.
It makes no difference. But it's just a way to look at that article and say, okay, how are we going to solve this? Well, one, we're going to let them opt in. Then we're not going to take audio files. And then we're going to let Apple employees listen to the people that opt in and let us have the audio files. So I don't see the point. It's just, to me, it's people complaining about nothing.
Yeah.
And that, to be honest, that upsets me more than anything else.
Well, that being the case, let me upset you a great deal by talking about people complaining There's the article headers. Please, the love of God, shut up about the Apple Card getting ruined by leather.
Well, yeah, I agree.
No.
Yes.
Apple
Yes,
Apple has specifically had to come out and say, for whatever reason, don't put your Apple Card next to leather or denim. Are you kidding me?
No. You know why they had to say that?
Why?
Because some numbskull's gonna take out his Apple Card and start crying because it's marred a little bit. Hey, dumbass, take a look at your other credit cards in your wallet. They are also marred and scratched up.
My other credit cards in my wallet are pristine. You know why?
Oh.
Because they never come out.
Yeah, right.
I can't use them, so I don't pull them out.
Apple would probably, in this day and age, would probably face a lawsuit because the credit card got dirty. It got marred. And well, you never told me it could get marred or get dirty if I put it in my pants. It's a credit card. For God's sakes, people, shut up.
But Apple made a big deal about this thing being titanium.
No.
Yes, they did. They made a big deal about being titanium.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And
I thought you were going to say a big deal about making about denim and leather.
Oh God, no. But
denim and leather.
That's a new song for you. But they make a big deal with this thing being titanium, and we all have a mental image of what titanium is. It's a very strong, very light metal, and it's wonderful, and it sounds great, and da-da-da. Oh, but by the way, it'll get stained next to the two most popular things on your body. It makes Apple look ridiculous.
No.
It does.
I mean,
I have no problem with a plastic card getting tattered or getting stained or delaminating. This is metal. This is titanium. Supposedly one of the strongest metals in the world, and a bit of leather will make this thing discolor? Come on. It's ridiculous for Apple to do that.
It is a credit card.
Yes, it is. Made out of titanium.
Okay, I'll tell you what. If you want your card that bad, when it comes in the mail, frame it and put it on your wall. And it'll be good forever. That's it.
Yeah.
I looked at the other cards that I have in my wallet.
Mm-hmm.
And they are from a license to credit cards to ID cards, whatever. They are a mess. They are scratched. They're what's going to happen when you go to a store and you give them the card and it's a swipe reader or something, or a chip reader, and you put it in and it wears the card because you're putting it in the chip reader. Is that Apple's fault too? No, because they all do it. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It is a credit card.
Yes, but go ahead.
If Mercedes sold a car and they said, don't put it in the sunlight because it'll fade, then, I mean, that would just be stupid, right? Because all cars fade in the sun.
If you promote the card as being made out of a incredibly strong material, it makes you look kind of dumb when you say this incredibly strong material can get scratched up, or it can get striped up or dirty from the two most common things on our bodies. I'm just saying that. That's my issue with it. It just makes Apple look silly, saying, oh, by the way, don't put it in your wallet.
I don't agree. I think that they had to do that because some millennial dick will go and sue them or something because the card now my card is dirty. And, then I want to be the lawyer in the room there.
Speaking of
lawyers, and I just whack him with a hammer.
Speaking of lawyers in the room, Tim Cook received stock worth $114 million on August 24th. Is he worth that?
He should have got double that. The stock has never been higher. The company is doing very well. And who cares how much stock Tim Cook gets? I don't care. If the company was like some of these other companies where they're laying people off, They're battling lawsuits all over the place and losing. And the CEO gets $114 million. Whoa, hold up here. You know, there's a problem somewhere. But when one of the most successful companies ever has the CEO getting $114 million with everything that they've done, I'd say I think they got a bargain.
It's hard to, in a big picture kind of way, justify that, to say that one human being is worth this kind of money. And by the way, Cook is by no means the highest paid CEO out there. But when these numbers,
by any stretch,
but these numbers pop up, and our visceral reaction for those of us who don't make anywhere near that kind of money, who never will make that kind of money in a year, let alone our entire lives, the lives of our children and grandchildren, that kind of puts our teeth on edge. But when you look at it objectively, as you say, he has increased the value of the company astronomically over the years. This is a performance-based metric that the board of directors has said, if Apple does this, this, and this over this period of time, we will give you the stock option. So he's, in theory, working for it. He's not directly juicing the stock or anything else like that in order to have these options vest. He's doing his job, creating value for the company, and he deserves to get rewarded for that. If that happens to be a reward of $114 million, I think he deserves it. In general, it's kind of hard to justify spending or giving $114 million to one human being just for running a company.
I want you to do a little homework project for me.
Okay.
I want you to look at the people that were complaining about the $114 million, and I bet you they are the same people complaining about the credit card.
Well, I would disagree about that. Because
they are.
No, I complained about the card, but not about his stock options.
I didn't say it was you.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm just saying that most of these people, these are the people that are going to just complain.
Yeah.
I mean, what happens when you get a total knob in charge of a company that doesn't know what they're doing?
Yeah.
You get a company that's going down the tank, and that's not Tim.
Yeah.
The board of directors made a deal with Tim. The board of directors have upheld their deal,
yep.
and Tim has more than upheld his side of it.
Yep.
So, you know what? Go for it, Tim.
Yep.
I think they should have given him more.
Further, 1.12 million shares will vest across 2 installments in August 2020 and August 2021. Another 700,000 will also vest in August 2021. So in August 2021, he will get another 800,000 shares of Apple at the present stock price of $205 a piece. That's going to be several $100 million. And at that point, I predict right now, August 2021 is when Tim Cook will retire.
Maybe.
I think that would be a good opportunity for him to do it then.
See, here's what people seem to forget. When they talk about Tim or any executive at Apple cashing their stock, they think, oh, yeah, look, he just cashed in big. Well, you know what? They don't need the money anymore.
Most of them, yeah.
They are given the options, and of course, why wouldn't you take it to look after the future generations of your family? Yep. But I'm not saying you shouldn't take it. And Tim has already said that he will donate a lot of his.
Yes.
So, I'm not saying that anybody needs to donate their money. I'm not saying that at all. It's your money. You do what the hell you want with it. Yep. But they're not doing this for the money. Apple has some of the best talent in every aspect of that company, and they are paying them well to stay and continue to push their products forward. Yep. You don't do that by, have the best people in the world working at your company and not, compensate them at a level if they're doing their job at a level that is high.
Yep, commensurate with their abilities. It's also one of the reasons why every now and then you'll see someone seemingly fairly important at Apple move on to some other companies, because these are smart people who've already made buttloads of money and they want to be challenged. They want to be CEOs or VPs of their own companies.
Yep.
So this kind of movement between, especially Silicon Valley companies, is not necessarily the death knell of any one project or any one idea
No.
at Apple. It happens all the time. We just happen to notice it when it happens to Apple. Apple loses people to Tesla. Tesla loses them to Apple. Apple loses to Google, Microsoft. People come from Google, Microsoft, and work at Apple.
And you don't typically lose very many high-level people at Apple unless, in my opinion, they're forced out.
Yes.
So, when that happens, there are mid-level executives that say, you know what, and this is true, at any other company I could be CEO.
Yeah.
But here I'm stuck at VP, and chances are I'm not going to get above VP, which, I'm making, a gazillion dollars a year. I have more money than me and my kids will ever spend. I'm going to go do a startup or something and try and change the world that way.
Yep.
And you know what? That's perfectly fine.
Yep.
Go do that. That's not a big deal. But don't hate on the people for, cashing out with 50 or 100 or 300 million dollars. And I know that this is hard to take even for me, but they have worked for that money. They put themselves in the position to be able to take advantage of that opportunity. It's an opportunity that I didn't have.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity that you didn't have.
Sure.
They did. And you know what? I mean, they're really smart.
Yep, absolutely.
So I have never now, and I mentioned this earlier, there are some times when I see on the news that, the CEO of a company that is absolutely failing gets a $30 million bonus.
Yeah.
I am outraged at that, because people are losing their jobs all over. They're getting laid off. Their factories are closing, all of this stuff. And the CEO gets a $30 million bonus.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile that?
Yep.
Now, see, that gets me. So
those are the kind of things that are unjustifiable. There's nothing you can point to that says you should get this because you've done so well. You haven't. Obviously, you're laying off tens of thousands of employees. But
right.
With regard to Tim Cook, that's not happening. Nothing like it is happening. The company is hugely successful and is continuing to do so. And however much the board of directors attributes that to Tim Cook, he should get pay commensurate with that from the board.
Look,
no problem.
It is all attributable to Tim Cook in one way or another. And it's attributable to the executive VPs and to the VPs. All of this is attributable, but it comes back to Tim. Tim is the one that either hired the new people to be in those positions or allows the people that are there to continue to be in those positions. So it's all on him. Every decision is on him.
Yes.
So, and we've talked about this before too, but if you look at the way that people talk about CEOs, they have never been CEOs. And they say, oh, well, here's what Apple needs to do in order to make, and if they don't, then they're screwed.
Yeah.
How many times have we heard that from writers, from the media over the past 25 years? And a lot of times they've been wrong. Most times they've been wrong. Yeah. But they have never run a company the size of Apple. And until you do, until you're CEO of Apple or a company like that, I don't want to hear your opinion. Now, if you have been, I'll listen to what you have to say.
Speaking of opinions, Steve Wozniak says Apple should have been broken up years ago. in a big picture kind of way, should we be listening to Steve Wozniak?
No,
Why not?
because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he hasn't been involved in the company in any kind of significant way for at least 10 years. He is sort of employee emeritus. He's not involved in anything other than being another fan. He gets a lot of respect, deservedly so, for his
Absolutely
past engineering work. To be honest, he hasn't done much in the past 10 years. He certainly hasn't done anything that warrants us listening to his opinion regarding Apple's business. If he ever warranted that, he was never a business aspect person,
Nope.
marketing, or anything else along those lines. Does he even have a point that Apple should have been broken up because they don't have an environment where engineers like him are free to work on their own?
Look, I think, and was of anybody should know this. There are parts of Apple where, that illustrious pirate flag is still flying.
No.
And I believe that to this day that flag is still flying in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You may not be able to see it, but it's there. And I think that's what keeps pushing a lot of these engineers forward. I don't believe that Steve Wozniak is in the know like he was. And I don't believe that certainly Apple listens to him.
Yeah.
So is it some, I mean, I love Wozniak.
Yep.
I think that I respect the man like, one of the few people in the world that has really, really changed things. Yeah. So I'm not saying that I think he's a dumbass and that we should just ignore him, but I don't think that, I think everybody wants to hear what he thinks about Apple. And I just don't think that that's a wise choice for people to be asking him all of these questions about Apple. I don't. I mean, partly it's the person that's asking the question should just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I don't think that we should be asking Woz questions about Apple's business, as Woz was never part of Apple's business management and hasn't been involved in the company in, like I said, 10, 15 years. He says, I think big tech has gotten too big, it's too powerful a force in our lives, and it's taken our choices away. Frankly, Woz's opinion on this is no more, no less of value than mine, yours, or anyone in our IRC chat room. He's got no experience that is greater than ours.
Well, and let's be honest. I mean, what he just said there is absolutely true.
Yeah.
Has tech gotten so big that it takes over our lives and control? Yeah, it has. And in a lot of ways, that's very unfortunate. But I don't think that that's a reason to break up Apple. In fact, Apple is one of the few companies that, and especially in the last decade, has taken all of its platforms and made them work together.
No.
And not many companies do that. And some companies, that happens because they aren't talking to each other. And admittedly, that happened to Apple at the beginning too,
yes.
But now, Apple has all of these different parts and pieces and platforms and hardware, but they all talk to each other. And sometimes it's the simplest of things. Like you go on your Apple TV with that remote and it needs a password. Well, all of a sudden it pops up in your iPhone.
Yeah.
You can type in your password there really quick.
Yep.
Great. It's a simple thing. But what if Apple TV was a separate company and they weren't talking together like they should? I mean, no, they shouldn't be broken up. They should work better together.
Apple works because it's an integrated company. Apple would not work as well if it was broken up in the way that Woz says, which, again, makes me say Woz has no idea what he's talking about. As we said, I love the guy. I loved interviewing him. I love talking to him. I love hearing what he has to say about engineering things. But he should not be asked, nor should he be reported on, what he thinks about business, because he has little to no experience. And frankly, possibly less experience than you, me, or somebody else when it comes to dissecting Apple. I believe with that statement of his, he doesn't even understand Apple. Because if you think Apple can be the same company once it's broken up into disparate parts, as he used an example from HP, you're dead wrong. There's no way that Apple would be as successful or its product work as well if it was broken up the way Woz wants to break them up.
I agree.
Let's move on. Some airlines are banning Apple's MacBook Pros, even if they weren't recalled. There's an overabundance of caution. If you heard this, in June, we all know, Apple recalled the 2015, 2017 MacBook Pros with Retina display because the batteries may pose a fire risk. And then a couple of weeks ago, the FAA, the American Federal Aviation Association, reminded airlines not to allow those particular laptops to be checked in the luggage. But now other companies, particularly two Australian companies, Virgin Australia and Qantas, have banned them entirely, all MacBooks from the checked luggage.
Wow.
And even Qantas is saying you can't even use your 15-inch MacBook Pro on a flight. You can't take it out of your bag and use it. How they're going to know your particular MacBook Pro is A, 15 inches, and B, from the 2015, 2017 list, I have no idea. But what do you think about this? What do you think? Is this an overreaction on the part of the airlines?
Well, okay. So, we had that whole disaster of Samsung Galaxy Notes burning up mid-flight.
Yep.
I understand that there was a lot of concern, and rightly so, but a Galaxy Note was easy to spot.
Yeah.
It's this big ugly thing, and it's usually on fire. So that's an easy thing to spot. I like you said, I don't know about the MacBooks and how they reconcile that, though.
As MacMan says in the IRC chat room, anything with a lithium battery in it is banned from checked luggage. I know when I was traveling with my drone, I had to tell them I had a drone and that I had the batteries in my possession. I was going to take them on board the plane with me. They weren't going to be in checked luggage. So MacMan is correct on that. But yeah, I'd love to know how Qantas is going to figure out that when I open up my Macintosh laptop, is someone going to come over and check the serial number in mid-flight? Is there a way that they can see from an external view that it's a 2015 MacBook Pro versus a 2018 MacBook Pro? I think this seems kind of silly.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why they're doing it, but they seem to have stepped a little too far over.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree with you there.
Folks have been here's another one. Carolina Milanese. Tim Bradshaw said, this Siri privacy thing does feel like the most full-throated apology Apple has made since the Maps debacle back in 2012. Carolina says, and rightly so, because this is not just about Siri. This is about making sure consumers believe Apple has their best interests at heart when it comes to privacy. I think that's one of the main reasons why Apple released that press release. Apple has drawn that line in the sand that says we're about privacy. And they've admitted that we may have messed this one up, and we want to make it better for you folks. The other voice assistants aren't going to say anything like this because they don't. We assume they're listening to this. I think Carolina is right when she says this is a particular issue that Apple had to address as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I just don't agree with that assessment. I don't think that it sacrificed our privacy at all. I don't agree with the whole narrative that this, and even Apple said it. I still don't agree with it.
Yeah,
I really don't. I don't think that Apple violated our privacy at all. I don't think that they did anything wrong because it was all anonymous. I mean, and not even anonymous where somebody could dig and find their Apple ID in there because it's not there. It's all random digits and numbers. I think that Apple did it because they felt that they had to.
Yeah.
but I just don't think that it's as bad as what people are saying.
Folks, we're talking to Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. He was on John Gruber's The Talk Show podcast today. You can check it over at daringfireball.net. Also on the iTunes Store, The Dalrymple Report. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Shawn.
Talk to you next week. See you, buddy.
Bye.
When we come back, we're going to have I Have a Question with Melissa. She has a question about Siri. We're going to talk more about Siri. Hopefully you guys have got some thoughts regarding that, so please send us any information you have to email at Shawn at yourmaclifeshow.com. We'll be right back. But I gotta get Melissa's camera set up. Weird don't trust thing is popping up on my iPhone now when I plug it in, which wasn't doing before. I'm back. Melissa back. This is our I have a question. I have a question segment. This is our I Have a Question segment with Melissa. Mosquito says, turn off the music, Shawn. I did. I'm sorry. Music's off. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see. So, Melissa, you have a question.
Oh, I mean, and I'm just I don't know anything, but at least about this stuff. I know a lot about what I know about. But, you read that Apple has this grading system, and
Yes.
it sounds like their grading system, they've asked consumers, 0.2% of them or whatever, to opt into being monitored or whatever to kind of assess Siri and try and improve her or whatever,
Yes.
grade her. So as I look at what this whistleblower mentions about, sensitive information and medical appointments and drug deals and sexual encounters and things like that were sort of tapped into.
Yes.
Were they the 0.2% of the opted in, or does that mean that my medical appointment's being listened to as well?
Well, one of the things that Apple didn't make clear and has made clear, and what we just talked to Jim about, is that when Apple staff, the contractors, heard your voice, they have no idea who you are. There is no way for them to identify and say, "Oh, this was Melissa Berryman in Gibson, British Columbia." There is no way according to Apple, no way for that audio tidbit to be associated with you. When it gets sent to Siri and put on Siri's servers, it gets all mangled up. There is any identifying data is stripped out of it before it gets to Siri. It doesn't come off your phone. So Apple doesn't know what kind of phone they know what kind of phone you're using, what operating system it is, and what kind of phone it is. But they don't know about anything else. They don't know about your contacts. They don't know about your doctor's appointment. They don't know about your pictures or anything along those lines. Okay? And then it gets to Apple servers. And then on Apple servers, it gets mushed up some more. And what's called a unique identifier number is associated with it. It doesn't say this is Melissa Berryman.
No, I understand.
It says this is file number 1327. So there's no concern from that point of view unless you say in the file to listen to, this is Melissa King and Gibson's, I've got a doctor's appointment.
Well, then what's the whistleblower talking about? Why is it even relevant?
It's relevant from the point of view of, one of the things is, do you know what AI is?
Artificial intelligence.
Do you know what ML is?
No.
Machine learning. And AL is artificial. So artificial intelligence is machine learning. We think that Siri is just a machine doing this stuff. Google Assistant, just a machine doing this stuff. But it's actually a lot of people helping the machines listening in.
Yes.
Google does this. Alexa, Amazon does this. They all listen in. They've stopped, but they have in the past. They listen in, and so the people help the machines learn better. As the machines learn, in theory, they get better, and people have to help them less. So the big deal is people didn't realize this. They didn't realize that human beings were listening to some of their audio snippets.
But it's all scrambled.
Exactly.
But I'm sorry, I have to ask you, though. I thought they were opted-in people.
No, Apple's going to opt in.
Oh, they haven't done that.
That's right.
So we might get a message say, hey, you want to opt in?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. And you can say no or yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that they hadn't asked yet.
Now, Apple asked in a very, very indirect way. When you first turn on your iPhone and that whole terms of service thing that you ignored, like everyone ignores, somewhere in there it says Apple will use Siri interactions to make Siri better. You agree to allow us to do that. But the problem with this is Apple didn't make that explicit and didn't make it obvious to people that was what was going on behind the scenes. And that's where they got in trouble with it.
Okay.
And then the media didn't do a very good job of explaining, hey folks, don't worry about this. Unless you say your name in the snippet, the person listening in has no clue who you are and there's no way of finding you. Hey, Siri, I just killed my wife.
Oh, I didn't even want. Okay, yes, go on. Yeah.
So there was no way to identify that. So a lot of people, especially in the media, jumped to the erroneous conclusions, and therefore then presented those erroneous conclusions to average users like yourself, and it freaked people out to think that Apple could listen in on your individual conversations. Because part of it is it's very spy stuff. We see it on Mission Impossible and Jason Bourne, them tapping into someone's phone and listening in on the phone call.
No, and as Mo had said, it's uncharacteristically like an oversight because you think, well, it's Apple.
Yeah,
and
that's
Steve
right.
Jobs was all about and very passionately about privacy.
Yeah.
So it's just a bit confusing because of the grading of Siri that they're talking about. And it's like, oh, was I a part of the grading of Siri when she didn't listen or she suddenly popped up when I didn't say her name? And then how did the whistleblower know about all this very discreet, very private information or interactions that were going on? So it's just a bit confusing for the layperson right now.
What happened with the whistleblower is they're listening to these random conversations and grading Siri. Oh, got that one right. Oh, got that one right. Oh, that one was wrong. Here's what she did wrong. So they're listening to random text.
Yes, but now people are going to be only the opted-in ones.
Yes, that's right. Only the opted-in ones, and only, even though I don't think it really makes much of a big deal, only Apple employees will now listen in, not a contractor.
Okay.
But as Jim and I said, it doesn't matter if it's a contract or
Well,
not.
no, it doesn't really matter. I mean, well,
In theory, they sign.
have they signed something?
Exactly. In theory, the contractor signed the same NDAs that an employee does.
Well,
What Apple is saying here, and if I was a contract with Apple, I'd be kind of pissed off. What Apple is saying, hey, we trust our Apple employees more than we trust third-party contractors. And I'd be offended by that if Apple said that to me in this kind of way. It's kind of hurtful. And we don't trust you as much as our employees. Employees can be just as crooked as contractors. So there's no that's a distinction without a purpose. Anything else?
no. Thank you.
You do know how Siri works too, right? For example, you know why Siri doesn't work when you have no internet access?
Why she doesn't work, sorry?
When you have no internet access.
No.
Siri doesn't work when you don't have internet access because Siri needs the internet. When you say, hey, Siri, and that voice goes to Apple's computers, it doesn't. Siri doesn't translate your voice into ones and zeros into a query on your phone. It sends that voice to Apple's servers, and the servers then translate that, take your audio, turn it into something the machine can understand,
It's all.
then do a Google search for the information, and then sends it back to you in milliseconds.
Oh, it's incredible.
I think we give Siri
Oh, no, I think about that all the time.
and Amazon and Google, and
It's
they
like,
all do
wow.
this stuff. Now,
And
Siri,
she can then access information
Yep.
when she decides to get tired and go, well, here's a Wikipedia, whatever. Look at that, you know.
it is difficult to keep reminding people of that. This is amazing technology. We see it on the commercials work perfectly all the time, and we expect it to work perfectly. I still get frustrated when I say something to Siri and she says, "Here's some results I found on the web." No, just tell me.
She doesn't like
It
that.
really, really
And
annoys
to me, it's like, good for her.
In,
I'm going to turn her into a he.
he,
Yeah.
in the next version of the operating system, Siri's going to stop doing that, sending you those. I found this on the web. Things they're going to start sending you the information directly, which is I think is a good thing because sending me the information on the web, I could have looked it up, Siri. I didn't need you to look it up for me. I could have Googled it. You know. So,
Thank you.
what was someone saying about AC? You guys, is your AC down?
I didn't grow up with AC, and I
Neither
grew up
did I.
in way hotter town. I'm a wimp now when it comes to warm temperatures.
Most Canadians did not, and Australians apparently, did not grow up with air conditioning.
I didn't grow up. No way. No one in my family had air conditioning.
I didn't have air conditioning until I moved to Nashville in 2002.
We had to wait for the southerly to start to. You knew on the radio you'd hear the southerly has hit Sydney, and we'd go, "Oh my God, it's hit Sydney!" And my grandpa would lay out on the front, and you'd feel a little coolness, and you could see in the distance the grayness coming, and you go, "It's coming, it's coming." We had to wait for the southerly. That was our AC.
That's funny. Yeah, the first time I ever had AC in a place I lived was when I moved to Nashville in 2002. I don't think I've ever had it in any place I lived in British Columbia. Because, it only gets stupid warm for us like 2 weeks in August.
2 weeks of the year, big deal.
So there's no
And this
need.
year, not
And
even.
not even that. It just happened to be warm today. Want to send a reminder to folks. If you subscribe to Your Mac Life via PayPal, thank you very much. The Your Mac Life American PayPal account is going away. I think it's already been shut down. So your next PayPal cycle, I'm actually going to send an email to everyone on Thursday, reminding folks, please unsubscribe via the American PayPal account and resubscribe to the Canadian PayPal account. It turns out that I've hit some sort of threshold in my American account, and I now need to report that income to the IRS. But I'm not an American citizen. I don't live in America. I don't pay taxes in America. So it's just a bit of a glitch with PayPal. And so one of the folks at PayPal, after literal months of trying to get a hold of someone, finally someone I talked to someone on the phone, and they were very, very helpful. They transferred our PayPal because I couldn't get at the PayPal money.
Shawn didn't even raise his voice, everybody.
Oh, because the guy was very good. He was very
He
helpful.
was very calm
No,
and very nice. Usually I'm used to like a sharp raising of the voice frequently during the day.
I can be forceful. So yeah, I made it very clear to the guy what the problem was, and he accepted. I had to give him a lot of identifying information. I had to tell him what the website and a bunch bunch of other things. But not a problem. We could finally get a hold of that money. They've since moved the money to the Canadian PayPal account. So we have the money. We didn't lose any of the money. And then that money was then vacuumed out by Melissa.
I said it went to the credit card. It was vacuumed out by Visa.
So we've got the money. There's no problem there at all. The previous subscriptions you guys have sent have not been lost. But yeah, you're going to have to resubscribe. Hopefully everyone will resubscribe.
I hope
Please,
so.
fingers
Everybody
crossed.
resubscribe.
Please resubscribe. And so if you want to do it now, you can. You can go to the YourMacLifeShow.com website. There is the subscription button that's up there now is linked to the new PayPal account. PayPal_CA at YML.
Your American dollar goes far up here in the great north.
So far.
You know, we love the American dollar.
You get an extra $300 because of the PayPal.
Because of the weakness of our dollar.
And the other thing is, I forgot, because of the screw-up of the show 3 weeks ago, and then not doing a show 2 weeks ago, we forgot to mention, because it was lost in the ether, next June and July, there will no be.
He's talking about like Yoda now. There will no be.
Will not be any Your Mac Life, because we're going to Cairns, Australia,
not France. I want to go to France.
Cairns, they call it.
Cairns.
Thank you. Wiki. To go scuba diving in the Great Barrier Reef. You guys have no idea how excited that makes me. I've been a scuba diver since high school back in Nova Scotia, but I haven't actually done scuba diving in 30 years. But I know I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But in Nova Scotia, you can dive on wrecks. The water is so cold in Nova Scotia, you have to wear dry suits. Not wet suits, but a dry suit, because the water's like 45 frickin' degrees. And I scuba dove a couple times in the Caribbean when I was with my dad in the Canadian Navy. But this time we're going to fly into Cairns. We're going to do 2 days of introductory diving, which means you don't have to take a certification. You can't dive anywhere else except with those guys. But it's basically beginner diving 101 kind of thing. They'll teach you how to do it. We'll be in fairly shallow water, 30-minute, 45-minute tanks. They're going to be very.
Don't even need a wetsuit. I dove there and I went night diving and I didn't even wear a wetsuit.
We've been saying now for a while, checking the weather, and even today, as warm as it is today, in the summer, in August, in Gibsons, it's warmer in Cairns and it's winter time there. It's full on winter in Cairns and it's still warmer there than it is. Warmer there than it is here. So yes, we're very excited about that. We're taking Rory. We're taking the 13-year-old. And we're going to go down to visit Cairns, and then we're going to visit family in Newcastle. So we'll be off the air for about a month and a half, a month.
Oh,
at least a month, if not longer. And I want to send a shout out to Mo. Mo says, "Doing what I can to help guys. Work's been slow for 2 years." Mo, that's not a problem.
I said, no worries, Mo. Oh my goodness.
Yes, Cairns is beautiful. One of the things that I get from some folks I mentioned isn't the Great Barrier Reef dying? It's a shame that this kind of stuff makes the news, and the news either doesn't follow up or doesn't do it properly. The Northern Great Barrier Reef had what's called a bleaching event in 2016 and 2017, where the water temperature was 31 degrees, which is about 82 Fahrenheit, which is far too hot for coral. So a portion of the northern part of the Great Barrier Reef died. It wasn't the entire Great Barrier. Remember, the Great Barrier Reef is 2,000 miles long. So
you can see it from space, right?
You can see it from space. There's a lot of reef out there. But this northern section in particular had what they called a bleaching event. The coral died, it turned white. It was not attractive.
2 years in a row, like a fire going through there.
Exactly. Now some of it is recovering, but it didn't affect the entire reef. And the other aspect of it is that the dive operators aren't going to take you to the bleached part of the reef.
No.
They're going to take you to nice places on the reef. They're not going to just say, hey, there used to be coral here. kind of thing. So we're not worried about that.
Well,
too
and we
much.
watched a marine biologist that said, because he's studying the bleached areas, and he said there's so much life. It's like if there was a forest fire and you went in a few years later, they would be filled with life. Like look at Yellowstone now. So it's filled with life and not actually dead. There's many things that are happening in the bleached coral.
It could still be killed off. This is not something that we can ignore and go, oh, well, it'll be fine. If the water temperature continues to rise worldwide, not just in Australia, things start dying. There's no doubt about that. These creatures have adapted to life at a certain temperature. The other thing we heard from the oceanographer was that there is some coral that is bleach resistant. So it didn't kill off all the coral across the spectrum. Some coral survived, and maybe that coral is bleach resistant, and they're actually doing experiments to see if they can transplant the bleach resistant coral to other places, and it can grow and be bleach resistant.
I don't like that though. So
yeah, it's supposed to be there, but anyway,
it's like, oh no, bleach resistant coral now is invading the rest of the reef. That's what will happen.
The funniest part of this is that we've all got things we want to see. Rory wants to see a reef shark. He wants to scuba dive with a reef shark, which is going to be very, very cool. Melissa wants to scuba dive with
I'd like to see a big turtle.
a big turtle.
But I'd like to see a reef shark too.
And I want to see a manta ray. I'd
And
love to be able
yes.
to scuba dive near a manta ray.
You could
So
ride one.
I don't want to get that close. I'm good.
Oh,
I'm
all
fine.
right.
I'm fine. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing in next June, middle of June to middle to late July. I just wanted to send that out to you guys.
On Mo's comment, I think I want to see a jellyfish because they're going to rule the world, right?
Yeah, in the end, all we'll support is a giant jellyfish.
Oh, the blue one. I think I wonder which one you're thinking
These
about.
type of the poisonous, nasty type.
Yeah, the blue ringed one. They're not there. They're not on the reef.
Yep.
There's the box jellyfish that are there that will kill you.
And the Portuguese man of war.
Well, the Portuguese man of war never used to, and then they're coming. Apparently, they're starting to encroach a little bit in the northern areas of the reef. So now they tell you can dive with a jelly suit, like
Stinger suit.
a stinger suit, if you are scared of the. But in the winter.
Yes.
In the summer, the ocean's filled with them, but with the boxfish. But in the winter, you're pretty. It's rare.
Yeah, and you can see them coming. Portuguese man of war are massive.
Yes, but the box jellyfish are opaque.
Oh shit.
I've seen them.
But they're less of a concern in the wintertime. That's when we're going is in the wintertime.
Yeah, the ringed ones are down where I grew up. They're in the lake that I would swim in all my life as a kid. The blue ringed octopus but they're very small and very, very shy.
Remember, our seasons are opposite theirs. So when Melissa's off work at the school district in the summertime, it's winter there, which is the perfect time to go diving. Their summer would be our winter, and we couldn't get off as much time going in the wintertime. Plus, you don't want to go scuba diving in the reef in the Australian summer.
Yeah.
It's way too hot.
It's up north. It's raining every day, and it's just so hot you can't even move. And the ocean is hotter.
So we won't.
Sounds like fun, huh?
Exactly. We won't be doing that. Got some emails from you guys. Let me just see if I can't find flagged emails. Mark Pullman in South Carolina says, thanks for answering my VPN from Apple question. He says, I think Apple, with its stance on privacy and creating a selling point for Apple users to differentiate itself from other systems, would stand to make money to create a VPN exclusively for its users. VPN is a virtual private network.
Oh.
Which in theory means people can't spy on you when you're sending data out. I think VPNs are so specific to a certain client base of Apple that they can configure that geeky, nerdy section of Apple's client base can do VPNs on their own. I don't think the average person needs or wants or understands what a VPN is, and I don't think there'd be enough money. Yeah. Oh, I honestly don't think there'd be enough money for Apple to get involved in that kind of stuff. Our friend Mo, who's in the IRC chairman, says, that photo contest you talked about looked like a bunch of participation awards. Seriously, mediocre work. I want to send a big shout out to Susan Gare, who pointed out to us as I was speaking. I didn't see it until it was too late. I was saying, any photo contest that asks you to pay to submit your photos don't get involved in. Well, guess what? The IPP awards, you pay between $5 and $15 to submit your photos. So we will never speak of the IPP awards ever again. They are an organization I don't trust. They're an organization that should not be charging photographers in order to subscribe to them, and their photos were terrible. So strike 3, you guys are out of here. Maurice says, your discussion about Apple cables was interesting, but I think you left out a couple important details. When power and data transfer are concerned, it might also be important to mention choosing third-party manufacturers that conform to the Apple MFI spec, especially now that a new exploit's been demonstrated. In addition to Anchor and Nomad, I'd add OWC to your list. In such cases, I'd consider avoiding potential Amazon knockoffs entirely and buy directly from the manufacturer if possible. Free shipping be damned. For what it's worth, I've only had 1 or 2 Apple cables frayed in the past couple of decades. I believe they were on iPod earbuds, not data power connections. We've had at least half a dozen in the last 2 years.
Oh, before I met you, though, it happened all the time. It was driving me crazy. It's like, why?
And these are Apple.
And I mean, granted, I didn't wrap them all up, and because you're using your devices, so.
By extension, pun intended, he said, we're probably also talking about the provenance of chargers that those cables connect to, right? Even more important to know one source of replacements for chargers that are easily counterfeited but supply dirty power with poorly made components. And of course, my caution over intrusion extends to public charging stations that only provide USB ports. There was one of these in a waiting area in New York Penn Station a couple of years ago, but not for long. That is an interesting new issue now, too. When you take your USB cable and plug it, like Starbucks has them, where you can plug it directly in. You don't got to find a little power brick first. You plug in directly into Starbucks' USB port and get power. Sounds good, right? Except those can be hacked to allow access to your device, iPhone or laptop, simply by plugging the USB thing directly into it. So if you're really paranoid, paranoid may not be the right word, security conscious, you get one of the little white power bricks, a little square one or a full-size one. You plug that into the wall first and then your cable into your own power brick. That way, in theory, it can't be hacked.
See, as a healthcare professional, I wonder if healthcare is moving along with all these potential security breaches of what's on your... I mean, you can sit on the ferry and go on your computer. You can do it and, Anyway, I have a big exam every year with the college, and I see a lot of things on informed consent, and not to have things in your car and your files should be locked up. I get all that. They've been doing that for years, but all this, they're not stressing it. So
a prime example is how many people would say on their lunch hour go to the local Starbucks and take their laptop and work at the Starbucks. No big deal, right? But
if you're a community therapist, you're often all over, and if you need to do things, because you don't want to have like masses of things to do at the end of a day, if you want to do them as you go along.
And so that's at Starbucks. That's an unsecured wireless network.
Well, you've taught me that. I know if I sit there, that someone could hack my
That's where what Mark Pullman was saying earlier, a VPN comes in, a virtual private network. So you'd sit down at Starbucks, and you would tell your virtual private network to open up a screen door to only let in what I want.
Would you have to pay for that?
Some companies do it for free. Any free company I'd be suspicious of. Other companies, you pay $5-10 a month to get these virtual private networks. But if your IT guys didn't have their heads up their asses, your IT guys know that you, as the users, deal with sensitive information all the time. Private information that must be kept secure. They should have already offered you a VPN
They
service.
don't work under a healthcare contract. They're not under the Ministry of Health, which has very, very strict guidelines.
But even if they don't, they are IT guys supporting the healthcare professionals, and they should know healthcare professionals need security.
Yes.
And it's something they should have already offered you guys, already be set up in the school district. Here is how to connect to the virtual private network. They don't do that. Your IT guys are morons. I've said that.
Well, the
many
IT
times.
guys I've worked with in health have been crazy nuts about all the security. So it just depends what you have to, what guidelines you work under.
What are you saying about Ireland?
Because MacMan, because he's a traveler in his soul, he really is. He's saying, oh, the Australian dollar is 0.67
You know, it's
US.
ridiculous.
He says,
Isn't
I need to stop looking at things like that. So I said, you're a traveler in your soul.
it? Yep.
And then I said, well, because what about Ireland? But I don't know what the... Well, I guess it's a euro in
Yes, the
Ireland.
euro.
Well, it depends where you are in Ireland, I guess, right? Because it wouldn't all be euro.
No, it is
Oh,
all
it
euro.
still is now, yeah. Hopefully it will stay that way.
We've been thinking, Melissa and I have been talking about doing another starting point photography session in Ireland, in Dublin in particular. Dublin's a wonderful, it's a wonderful city to begin with, but the location is great because there are deals where you can get a rental car. Now, it's a manual, a rental car fairly cheap, and locations are easy to get to. Ireland's not that wide a country. It's an hour drive from, or an hour and a half drive from Dublin to the coast of Galway. It's an hour drive to Cork. It's an hour and a half drive to Limerick. It's an hour, you know what I mean? It's an easy drive to get to wherever you want to go. So I'd love to know if folks were interested in doing another photo session in the castles of Ireland in a different setting than Lisbon. Lisbon was beautiful and bright and sunny and warm. What's it like shooting in the opposite conditions? What are the challenges of shooting in darker, moodier conditions where you have to change your shutter speed, use tripods, increase your ISO?
After you've just had a bunch of, Guinness.
No, we would definitely be shooting before we went to the pub, before we went to the distilleries.
You're no fun, Shawn. You do
Before
it
we went to
during,
Jamie's.
after.
But there's another thing. I guarantee you, if we go to Ireland, we're going to a pub that's playing music. How do you take pictures in a crowded pub? Dark.
There isn't a pub in Ireland that isn't
That is
either
not-
playing music or someone stands up and starts.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
So how do you take photos in those conditions, kind of thing?
You just take them. It would be
But you
amazing.
want them to come out well, is what I'm saying. So what are the things you got to think about photographically in order to do that?
So Starting Point's now going to teach people how to take photos when they're drunk. And surrounded by singing, bopping, Irish... what's the word I'm thinking of? Irish
Jig.
Jig.
MacMan says, if I do another SPP workshop, I'm going to have to rent or get better glass. Not necessarily, MacMan. Your glass is pretty good. It's going to be more about conditions, light conditions, than anything else. Don't think you have to get, unless you obviously want new glass. I've been drooling over a Nikon 24-70 millimeter lens for 5 years now. But no, you don't necessarily have to. Something with a better f-stop is something as simple as a nifty 50. Nifty 50 millimeter lens with f1.8. That's fantastic for shooting in pubs because it's a huge, wide open aperture, lets lots of light in, and a 50 millimeter lens is a good lens for shooting up close and personal. So yeah, you may not necessarily have to get a new lens. Folks, that's it for tonight's show. I want to say thanks, as always, to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com for joining us here each and every week. Thanks to you guys for being tuned in live or via the archive. And remember, look for that PayPal email, or if you choose, go ahead and unsubscribe from PayPal Shawn at yourmaclifeshow.com. Go to our website, click on the subscribe link, and what are you smiling about?
Because I'm yawning. Sorry, everyone.
And resubscribe from the new PayPal account. I'll send emails out to those folks over the next month, though. That's it. As always, I've been Shawn King.
I'm Melissa King.
And you've been listening to Your Mac Life. See ya!
Bye.